really go after serving kind of that middle class America.
Yeah.
People who have commercial and coverage, whether that's maybe through an employer, privately purchased through an exchange, maybe it's a military family on TRICARE, right? People that may not be able to qualify for government programs, people who may not be used to asking for help. We want to step in with those kinds of families and offer this hand up, not a handout, a hand up, as they navigate the healthcare challenge.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Ability Innovations podcast with Therapy Unmasked. And we are here today with a friend of mine. His name is Scott, and he's going to tell us a little bit more about what he does and with the United Healthcare Children's Foundation. So take it away, Scott.
Hey, thanks, Nick, for having me today. It's an honor to be here and talk a little bit about the Children's Foundation. I'm Scott Otto. I work as the Assistant Executive Director with United Healthcare's Children's Foundation, a role I've been honored, or an organization I've been honored to serve in for the past about 14 years.
Tell us a little bit more about the Children's Healthcare Foundation, or the United Healthcare Children's Foundation. Sorry, I mixed that up.
Sure. No, it's a mouthful. United Healthcare Children's Foundation. Let's call it UHCCF.
Okay.
That rolls off the tongue a whole lot easier, right? UHCCF is a 501c3 charitable organization. We exist to provide medical grants that help kids across the entire nation, helping them access health-related services may not be covered or fully covered by their commercial insurance plan.
Yeah.
And one of the things, even though we've got United Healthcare in our name, you don't need to be a United Healthcare member to apply. Actually, the majority of our kids, more than 70% of them, are covered by some of United Healthcare's biggest competitors.
Yeah, it's just a resource that goes out to everybody that might be able to use it. That's really cool. I mean, it's great to see that the organization has set something up to just kind of give back, right? That's what this is largely about, and helping families.
If we think about it, the audience that we serve, and specifically here we can talk about the grant criteria. We really go after serving kind of that middle class America. Yeah. People who have commercial and coverage, whether that's maybe through an employer, privately purchased through an exchange, maybe it's a military family on TRICARE, right? People that may not be able to qualify for government program, people who may not be used to asking for help. We want to step in with those kinds of families and offer this hand up, not a handout, a hand up, as they navigate the healthcare challenge.
Yeah, and I mean, it's a big challenge. And I think a lot of our families are feeling like their pocketbooks are being stretched. And so it really is like a hand up, like, let's get you into a better situation, or let's give you a little bit of extra that you can take to, then use your income for things like food and just necessary supplies. So it takes a little bit of that strain off, and that's so amazing.
It brings to mind one of the families that I've had the privilege to get to know here the last 3 or 4 years. Mom was impacted by COVID. Her business shut down. Dad's a firefighter. They're just going along with life, right? 2 young boys. One of them all of a sudden was having issues with his ears, needed an adenoidectomy, needed tubes put in. They just needed that help over that hurdle, right? They didn't need that long-term care. They needed us for about 2 years. To help that son get through it. And then, oddly enough, they came back 2 years later with their other son who had the same procedures. And it's just amazing. They're now serving as advocates for us, attending events, telling their story about how we were able to help them through that difficult time.
Yeah, you guys are like friends that are just lending a handout, or not a handout, but a hand to people, right? Exactly. And saying, let's walk this bumpy road together. That's really cool. Well, and tell us a little bit more about like the overall mission, if you can kind of state that.
So I mentioned before, we're seeking to step into that gap where a family may have a situation, a clinical condition for their child. Health insurance may not cover it fully, right? There may be a carve out for something that's not covered. I think about like a cranial band. There may be things that are subject to deductibles and out of pockets, right? Those financial strains can cause a family to have to really decide, do I put food on the table? Do I pay the mortgage, right? Do I get this surgery, right? We want to help resolve that and come alongside with that timely financial assistance so that the family can really focus on their child, right? That is which matters the most. We've been honored to serve more than 38,000 families across the United States.
Wow.
Distributed over $78 million since 2005. In a given year, we'll help about 3,500 kids. A whole variety of issues and ailments, right? From the small, hey, I need my day-to-day ADHD medicine or maybe an asthma inhaler, all the way up to the big stuff, the cancer diagnosis, the transplant, et cetera.
Right.
We are not limited or focused on a particular disease state. Really, we just want to help kids because their needs are so great.
Yeah, it's really just a children's foundation, right? Like whatever kids come your way, you're going to try and help them.
Exactly.
We have a lot of families here at our clinic that we have introduced them to the foundation and had them apply. And it really has been like something that has really benefited a lot of families, even just with us. But it's been something where they feel like, yeah, they can get momentum, they can get things going for them.
Mm-hmm.
And such a cool resource. What is your personal why for this? Like, why are you involved in this?
Oh, that's an easy one for me. It starts at home, right? I'm a dad. I've got 2 kids. Now they're 17 and 19. They're growing up fast. My youngest is a special needs child. She's on the autism spectrum, has some developmental delays, some epilepsy, those kinds of it's a complex situation.
Yeah.
Right. And I feel so fortunate that I have been able to access the healthcare that she needs, that I've had the resources to be able to afford the services and supports that she needs. But I look around me, I look at some of the kids in her class, I look at the child that lives 2 doors down from me, I look at the family that's sitting in front of me in church. They're in a different spot. They can't afford that. They're really straining to make some tough choices as a family. And I want to step in and help those kids, those families, those moms and dads.
Because you know what they're going through.
I do.
Yeah.
I do.
That's such a position of influence. And I love that. Tell me a little bit more about maybe a specific case that comes to mind, or a specific family, kind of like you already talked about, but that really like keeps you going. Maybe something recent.
I've been around for so long. I know so many. Maybe I'll give you a couple of them here. So one, a guy by the name of Aiden, high schooler, dealing with sacral agenesis, which is a not fully formed spine at birth. So he was, limited to wheelchair, limited to using braces and supports to be able to move around. You think about him as a middle schooler and having to be sidelined while all of his friends are running track and participating in sports and athletics, and all of that good social interaction that happens there. He can't participate because of his physical limitation. We were able to come alongside Aiden and fund a racing wheelchair for him. All of a sudden, he went from the sidelines to he's on the track racing and competing with some of the best in not only the state, but he was competing on a national level, completing marathons, which he never would have dreamed he could have done had it not been from us coming alongside of him and funding that small wheelchair at that critical point in his life. So, that's one that certainly just, gives me goosebumps every time I think about it. I think of others, cool. Another that quickly comes to mind, twin girls out on the West Coast. They suffered from apraxia of speech, and as a result, a developmental delay, right? So think about them as young girls, 10, 11, 12, not being able to communicate with their world. And when they were trying to utter, you couldn't understand it, right?
Right.
So we came alongside both of those kids, helped them afford the speech therapy that they needed. And all of a sudden they have a voice. They have an ability to interact not only in the classroom, but in those social circles. And as they go on in life, they will continue to find that voice.
Exactly.
So again, as a daughter of 2 dads, that really touches home for me, thinking about helping those women, the young ladies, find that voice.
Yeah. And it sounds like a lot of these cases individually, like they're not just numbers or just people on a piece of paper for you. You're actually learning these stories of these real people.
I can't know all of them, but I've been honored to serve in many roles, including that frontline service, with our families over the years. I've worked on, a variety of events, where we bring in these families to tell their story. So it's not Scott telling their story, but here's mom getting up or dad getting up, and with a tear running down their face, they're telling the story of their child. And you can just feel the gratitude coming through in their words. It's just so rewarding to get to know those families on a personal level and to truly come alongside of them.
And you get to see firsthand like the results of what you're doing.
Right.
That's so
completely
cool.
Changing the trajectory of a child's life.
Yeah, what a rewarding career you've got.
That it is.
That's
I'm
really
honored.
cool. One of the questions that we really like to ask a lot of our people, and this is because our theme here at our clinic is all about superheroes and helping these young superheroes gain the abilities that they need for the future. And so one of our questions that we ask a lot of people is, Scott, what is your superpower that you've learned along this path?
I think one of them is compassion, right? Being able to truly empathize with the families that we serve. So that's where my heart just crumbles when I hear some of these stories. But I flip that around and I try to channel that into innovation, right? And I think about your comment about superheroes. It has prompted us here in our life as the foundation. We've actually taken a similar superhero theme, and we've brought that forward in the form of storybooks, games, plush, all with kind of that superhero kind of tone.
Wow.
For kids to be able to enjoy and engage with, teaching them some of the values and behaviors that we want them to adopt. But also in purchasing those books and those games, they're also helping us fund future grants for kids.
Very cool.
Kind of long answer to your question there, both about, how I receive it, but then also how I channel it.
Yeah, I love it. Like, turning that compassion and moving forward with it too, with other innovations. That's so cool. I love it. Well, is there anything else that you would like to share with our families and the caregivers that we send this podcast out to?
Yeah, I guess a couple thoughts come to mind.
Okay.
So, one thing is around how do families find us, right? Is one of the questions. And certainly there are families that find us through Google searches and other online, search engines. The number one source is word of mouth. It is somebody that heard about us, maybe received a grant, maybe works for United, maybe they're a provider, right? And they take that risk of sharing and saying, hey, have you ever heard about UHCCF? Maybe you should apply, right? Yeah. So that is a great challenge that I would throw out to the listeners to think about who you can touch with that word.
Because maybe you're not using this, but somebody else could.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. The other one that I'd like to throw out there is a little bit about our grant award itself, right? We talked about some of the criteria and certainly there's more on our website. But the grants themselves, they are have a component that is rear facing, meaning I can look back and consider expenses from the family over the last 60 days.
Wow.
But they're also good for into the future for an entire year. So I can cover that family that all of a sudden ended up in the ER unexpectedly, right? And it's a diabetes diagnosis, it's a broken limb, whatever that might be. But I can also help them for the year into the future, whether that be follow-on surgeries, therapies, recoveries, medicines, etc. Right? So that window of opportunity to take advantage of the funds that are available is more than just a short period of time. There's going to be
just
about
immediate.
14 months, right?
Yeah, and in that case, I mean, it kind of becomes preventative as well.
It can
be looking forward into the future and saying like, this is going to help us long term, or this is going to set us up.
Sure. It's not uncommon for our families to come back to us multiple times, right? Either in that example I gave of the twins, right? We can consider each child individually. So they may have one child that has need now, another one later in time. Or it may be that same child who has an ongoing condition. Right. My daughter will never outgrow her conditions. Right. And there will be healthcare need every year. Right. So we have families that come back to us 5, 6, 7, 8 times before they achieve their lifetime cap.
And that's great. So I think that's a good thing for parents to understand, is that this isn't just a one-time thing. Like they have the opportunity to keep using this to keep giving their kid what they need.
Right.
That's cool.
Yep.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Scott, and thank you for helping us learn a little bit more about what you do and why you do it, and for sharing your superpowers with the world.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, so I'd like to...
Of course, if anyone's interested in learning more, visit uhccf.org.
Yep.
You can also find us on Facebook and Instagram and all those great social channels, but please reach out. We'd love to have a conversation. And
tell others about it. Like if you know other families that could benefit, that word of mouth is right there.
Exactly.
Okay, well, thank you guys. And if you guys have any questions, we'll also post links to the everything that we've talked about today, and we'll get everybody to share that along. So thank you so much. And thank you for what you do.
Thank you, Nick. It's an honor to be here.
All right. Thank you, guys.